Welcome to the Purity for Life podcast, helping men and women live with sexual integrity through Jesus Christ. For more information on this podcast and other great resources, visit purityforlife.me. Well, hey everyone, welcome to the Purity for Life podcast this week. My name is Frank Honus. Great to be back with you guys this week, and thank you for watching and listening to the podcast wherever you might be listening or watching from, whether the website or YouTube or iTunes or whatever, Stitcher Radio. Thanks for checking us out this week. I hope this podcast is beneficial to your health and to your recovery if you are man or woman walking in recovery, or if you're still just kind of a little bit on the fence, maybe not sure where you're at, or if you're just still struggling. You know, every single day is a struggle. I want to make sure that this podcast is a resource for you, is a tool for you, and helps you to grow. And it's not one of condemnation, because God knows I have come from some really dark places in life. And, you know, as I continue to work out my recovery, and this is the 6th year of my recovery, and I'm continuing to work out my recovery. And so just want you to know that. I want you to feel welcome and to know that you are among friends and brothers. You know, especially this podcast being for men who are chasing after sexual purity. But if you are a woman who's struggling as well, I hope the resources I share and the encouragement I share, take that and apply that to your life as well. This week on the podcast, I want to talk a little bit about social media and how social media can lead to porn addiction. How social media can lead to porn addiction. Now, I love social media, and I want to just take a second for you to understand that I think that social media is one of the coolest innovations in the 21st century. You know, from Twitter to Facebook to Instagram to all the kinds of different social networks you and I use. They're awesome. They're fantastic. I mean, I've been using Facebook since I think 2008, somewhere around there, and Twitter around the same time, and Instagram and more recently in the last few years. But these are great innovations, you know, for connecting with family, for sharing your life with your friends and family, for promoting your business, promoting your if you're an entrepreneur, advertising and marketing who you are, getting your product out there. There's just so many great purposes for social media. This podcast is run on, so many social media platforms: Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. And so I use social media to promote this podcast. So there's so many great purposes for social media. I don't want to downplay in anything that I say in this podcast. I don't want to downplay what I'm saying, but I do want to share the reality that social media has, the implications that it presents, and some of the pitfalls that social media has, especially for those who are struggling with sexual addiction, with porn addiction, with fantasy, with lust, with communicating with people to try to fill their deepest needs. I find one of the greatest outlets for men that men really struggle with, I guess I should say people in general, because I know that there's not just men that struggle with social media, but it's men and women and teenagers and people of all ages. But I find in my communication and my meeting with men that there are many social networks, social media outlets that guys struggle with, and take your pick, whether that's Facebook, clicking on links, seeing photos, communicating, messaging the opposite sex, people that they don't know, YouTube being a huge pitfall for a lot of men with very, very edgy videos on YouTube and things like that aren't explicitly porn per se, but very well it could be porn. And for a lot of guys, it is very much a struggle in their mind and their heart. And Twitter and Instagram, Snapchat, all these different social media outlets, which have great purposes, but really bring a lot of a potential struggle to a person's life. And so let's just take a look at Facebook for example. Here's a statistic here. Sexual links. This was actually a statistic from a few years ago. Sexual links are the most commonly shared links on Facebook. Sexual links. They are 90% more likely to be shared than any other types of content. Wow. On Facebook. 54% of teenagers' profiles reference high-risk behaviors like sex, drugs, and violence. So Facebook, and really even in 2015, where we are now, Facebook is declining, amongst use. But other network, other social media, Twitter and Instagram, Snapchat continue to be major high traffic areas for a lot of people. Instagram, Snapchat, these services in particular are promoting, the sharing of photos. That's what they're for. It's a photo sharing site. And again, great, these are great services. But social media can also really potentially lead us to deeper places of isolation where we're cultivating what I like to call artificial relationships, not real flesh and blood, face-to-face relationships. And I've had some pushback on this in the past, but I really believe that if you're spending, 24 hours of your day or, the bulk of your day on social media and you're not connecting with real people and you're not spending your time with real face-to-face, what I say, real relationships, then there's a problem there. There's an issue there that needs to kind of be worked out in your life, and there's some question as to why you would rather spend that much time on artificial relationships than with real people. But that's the temptation, right? That's the potential that we run into, and a lot of guys that I've talked to in the past really do struggle with sites that seem very innocent to you, like Facebook, or YouTube. But these are huge sites of potential struggle and junk and bad stuff that can really happen. So I just want to share a few tips for how you can guard yourself when you're using social media. And some of these things I share with, I'm a technology teacher at a local Christian school, and I do a lot of teaching and sharing, and we take a very serious look at social media. And some of these things are actual tips that I share with the students that I have who, from 5th grade, 4th grade, all the way up to 8th grade, we start talking about social media at least 5th grade and up. But so some of these tips kind of come, out of that, but they're really applicable to all of us, especially those of us who, if you do struggle with pornography, you do struggle with, a fantasy, and you struggle with that in your heart and your daily behavior, these social media outlets have a huge potential to lead to further use of porn, masturbation, lust, fantasy, all those things. And so these are just tips that have kind of come out of my life and things that I share with other men in my life. So number one is this: just simply try to limit your use of social media. I want to encourage you to try to gauge this week how much time you spend on social networks. Whether that's Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or whatever, how much time do you spend on social networking? And then the follow-up question to that is that are you spending time with real people too in your life? Are you spending time with real people? Some of you may push back and say, "Well, I don't really have any friends." Well, what are you doing to cultivate real friendships and real relationships? You got to start somewhere. Maybe start within your church, or maybe start within your local community or activities a Bible study for men or women, maybe a small group of some kind, talking to, maybe talk to your pastor to help you meet some people, I would say of the same sex, right? To really kind of not, blur the lines a little bit there. But try to get involved in, healthy activities in your life that you can spend with people, not just online through social media, because social media is great, and we meet people on social media. We share life with people, but it is only, we're going to hit a wall every time because it is not real life. It's not really spending quality time one-on-one with people. So limit your use of social media and try to develop and cultivate, real relationships with people this week, with your family, with your friends, with people that love you, that really care about you. Number two, never friend or message someone that you don't know. I mean, this might seem like a tip that I'd share with a first grader or something, but don't talk to strangers kind of thing. But it's the truth. Why in the world would I want to friend someone on Facebook or, add a follower or whatever, and I don't follow Twitter as much as I used to, but Facebook especially I use quite often. Why would I want to friend somebody on Facebook that I don't know in real life? Why would I want to communicate with someone on Facebook that I'm not communicating with in life, or have communicated with in life, or personally know? So never do that, because you're just opening a Pandora's box of grief and potential pain, and something that could lead down a really bad path in life, a bad road. So again, never friend or message someone you don't know. The third one, number three, is don't click on links or ads that seem provocative, or ads from people that you don't know. And I know with Facebook, there's a lot of ads that come along the side of your window, the side of your screen. And sometimes you'll see things that, are very, very provocative, or very edgy, and you don't need to click on it. You don't need to go there. Don't click on that. Don't go there. Save yourself from a lot of pain, a lot of struggle there. Likewise, guys, I just want to give you a personal tip here, and I'll give you another personal tip in a second. Be very careful about the photos that you click on, especially in Facebook. People that you may not know, or friends of friends. I mean, you know what I'm talking about here. Be so careful with the photos that you click and that you look at. If they're people that you don't know, especially, you need to be just super, super careful with that. So be careful what you click on. Number four is block or restrict social media that's a problem for you. I've had several guys in the online group that I lead on Thursday nights in the past tell me that YouTube is an especially triggering website for them. And my response to them is, okay, don't you think maybe you should block it? So if it's triggering to you, if it's if it's causing you struggle, it's causing you to trip up, then block it. Block that website from you being able to access it. Doesn't mean that you're going to have to block it necessarily. You can never use it ever again, but there's going to be a season of your life where this is going to be a struggle, and you don't need to go there. If it's an app on your phone, restrict it. Restrict. There are specific restrictions on the iPhone and on iOS and Android that you can use to kind of cut off in some ways and block off the things that are a struggle for you, that could cause potential trouble in your life. And maybe it's just all of it. Maybe you just need to take a serious break from social media. You just need to take a vacation and leave it alone for a period of time, or for a majority of time. That could be a huge thing for you. And like I said, especially with services like Instagram and YouTube, and where there's a lot of photos being shared, videos being shared, there's a lot of junk out there. I mean, believe me, there's a lot of great stuff out there. And I don't want to make this sound like I'm bashing social media, because I love it. But be wise and use wisdom, so you know how to share and what to share, or what to do, and how to conduct yourself on social media. Number 5 is get some good accountability and monitoring software in your life. I mentioned this a lot on the podcast, but if you know that there are people that are holding you accountable, that are getting reports on a daily or weekly basis or whatever of where you've gone, where you've been, whether it's on your computer, your laptop, your tablet, your smartphone, then that helps you to have a little bit of conviction and know that, I want to really be careful. I want to just, I don't want to go to places where, that's going to be flagged, that my accountability partner is going to have to say, hey, where were you going? What was this site all about? But if I do, I know that somebody's going to call me out on it. And that's a huge, huge help, is to get some good accountability monitoring software. And then number 6, the last tip, is just, again, a personal tip, kind of going back to Facebook. Guys, specifically, I'm talking to men here, okay? If you're married, your wife needs to, I think personally needs to know who you're friends with on Facebook. You don't, it's probably a wise thing if you're a guy not to have friends, not to have female friends on Facebook. And I say that, and that might sound a little old-fashioned. It might sound kind of like, like, really, that's not a big deal, kind of silly to you, or maybe unnecessary. But my wife and I have a policy, and well, I call it a policy. It sounds awful administrative, but we have an understanding, we have an agreement that, number 1, we're not communicating with the opposite sex on Facebook or social media. But secondly, we know whose friends we're with on Facebook. We know each other's friend list, and if we ever have a problem with that or a question about that, we just simply, I talk to my wife, or my wife talks to me, or whatever, and there's just an understanding there. Because, again, I'm not trying to be a prude here, but the idea is that we are trying to cover whatever base we can to guard our purity journeys. And that's really what it's about. We're trying to guard our purity journey. We're trying to live the best life, a life of integrity, a life of character that we can. And this kind of leads me to my this quote that I wanted to kind of share with you as we kind of wrap up the podcast this week. It's from D.L. Moody. And he said that character is what a man is in the dark. Character is what a man is in the dark. And so all of this stuff leads us to kind of this conclusion that, you know who you are, and your struggles, and you are your greatest judge of what you are struggling with. The only other person that knows your heart is God, that truly knows your heart, that truly knows what's going on inside of your life. So the way that you are kind of conducting yourself and living your life, it is truly between you and God. God knows who you are. You know who you are. The question is, do you want to invite other people into your life to know who you are? And do you want to live a life of transparency, a life of honesty, a life of purity? And it might just mean giving up certain things. And social media is a very hard thing for some people to give up because they love their Twitter, they love their Facebook, they love their Instagram. But how much is it really worth to you to be a person of integrity, to be a person of purity? And so that's the big idea for this week's podcast, because the reality is there for social media to lead us to a deeper place of addiction, of sexual addiction, pornography addiction. So many porn sites are advertising, promoting through social media. So many links out there, so much content out there that is linked through these very common sites that we use every single day. So you got to be so careful. Please be careful this week. Please be careful in your life to as you use social media. Be a person of wisdom, and don't let these sites, don't let social media control you. And so I hope that these tips will help you. If you need any extra additional help, and you need some personal kind of coaching and guidance, or just want to take this to a deeper level, please feel free to contact me. I would love to share my heart with you and get to know you a little bit, and I do just communicate with guys, just so you put that out there. So men, feel free to communicate with me. If you're a female and you need some help, I'd be glad to pass and forward your email, your message along to my wife, who does a lot of great ministry in that area. But I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching again and listening to the Purity for Life podcast this week. My name is Frank Honus, and I'm wishing you a pure life. God bless.